Hello and welcome to episode 2 of VlogOn. This is our video series that we've been putting together where we take questions from our customers and our colleagues and we put them out in a video format so we can share it with everyone.
So before we get started, I just wanted to remind you guys about the competition we're running. So as you can see, there are lots of little characters on the table. Each week one of these characters is changing, and in about 5 weeks' time we'll ask you guys to see if you can identify which of the characters have changed. Those that get it right, we'll pick one of those winners and they can get an awesome prize.
Nice, awesome prize. So yeah, the question we had this week was around, at the start of a project, how do you identify the key pieces of content and which users that's aimed at, and kind of what's the most important thing to put out on the website, and how do you find that out basically?
It can sound a little bit overwhelming, but here at Verse One, when we do projects, we always start with a definition phase, which is where we hold a series of workshops with our customers and their key stakeholders. So that's usually internal staff, the executive and leadership teams, but also their customers. And in those workshops, we look at identifying how many different audiences are going to be coming to the website. And it's not the obvious ones, it's listing every single audience that you can think of. So that could be residents if you're in housing, then potential residents and so on and so forth. And in NHS, it could be service users, and then it could be families, and then carers. And you literally list these out until you can come up with no more. Then what you have to look at doing is identifying which of those audiences are coming to the website for what reason, and then group them together, because it's always easier to work in little groups, I think. So you might say residents and potential residents, well actually they're going to come to the site for roughly the same type of reason, so we'll put them into a group on its own, and you go through that process. Once you've got those groups, you then have to look at trying to rank those groups in order of importance to the organisation, because the problem with websites is by their very nature they're hierarchical, so not everything can share the same level of importance. Otherwise you get those websites, I think you've seen them, where they have like so many different links and calls to action that no one really knows where to go. So I think it's better to rank those groups in order of importance. Once you've done that, that's when you start thinking about what are the 5 key reasons and key things they're coming to the website to achieve or to obtain. So you list those out, and then you've got a really good starting point in terms of building your information architecture and your navigation. And it is a little bit of a time-consuming process, and quite often you'll have content that you've already got on your site, and that's where in those workshops you can look at that content and see, is it really appropriate for what our audiences are looking for now? It can be one of those things that when you redesign your website, taking across content that's from an old site straight to a new site might not be the best way, because websites can sometimes bloat out in terms of content. So I think you've got to be really structured in that way. But that's the initial way that we start thinking about what content should be on the site for what audience type, really.
Yeah, and it's kind of quite easy, quite a complicated thing to think about overall. But really, all you need to look at is creating your users, grouping them together, ordering them, and then creating the content for them.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's really, really important to use a CMS solution, just because all that content and all the different groups and stuff, you're going to need to move it around. You're not going to get it perfect first time.
And I think he's right. It's like content and what audiences want change all the time as well. So when you start on a website project, your audiences might be saying, okay, we want this, but by the time your site goes live, that entire thing could have changed, and actually your audiences now want something different. So you've got to have a content management system that gives you that flexibility, really.
Yeah, so being able to create pages and content and then move those pages, move the content within the menu, whereas all the styling, all the site still sits together, and you've just got that little interface where you can go move that around, reuse content. All of that is really important to make sure you're getting it right. And also having some way that your customers or service users can get in contact with you and give you feedback. So whether that's feedback on a page or feedback through live support, having that there from the very start allows you to kind of build in that feedback as you go.
Yeah, and don't be afraid. I think that's the one thing that we see quite often is you'll have lots of analytics. Pretty much everyone uses Google Analytics now, and that will tell you a lot of things about how your website's performing and how the content is performing. but quite often people will take all that information and they'll take it to their leadership teams as you know, we've got analytics and here it is, but then they kind of rarely change their entire website information architecture and structure based on those findings. And I think there's nothing wrong with doing that. You should be doing that because a website is a living, breathing thing. And you know, we always say here at Verse One that the actual start of a website project isn't when the site goes live. You know, that's when the actual project kicks off fully. And you have to be doing those things on a regular basis, every 3 months or every 6 months, to make sure that your website is functioning the way it should do, because people's priorities and what they want changes. So
yeah, so if you have any more questions on that, and you know all the stuff Jimmy talked about that we do in the workshops, you can get in contact with us obviously through the usual methods, and you can get in contact with us through Twitter as well. I'm at TomB_verse1,
and I'm at Jamie_verse1. So yeah, we're always on Twitter doing various bits and bobs. So feel free to get in touch with us on that, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Take care.